and welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, November 16th. We are open for business. How is everybody doing?
Doing
Good.
really good.
How are you?
Doing well.
I'm doing pretty
Fantastic.
crisp.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so can we get a chat confirmation for the audio to make sure we're all on the same levels and the audio sounds good, and then we will continue on. So this week we have been trying Kubuntu 1910, and as I'm looking through the Telegram chat, there's people talking about it. There's good comments, and there's other comments about not enjoying KDE. And I just want to say at the top of the show that there's a couple things that some people maybe haven't heard me say, and I should say it again. But there's a couple things about the distro challenge. One, the distro challenge is not specific to you coming on to Zoom and joining us. So you don't have to participate in the distro challenge in order to come on. There's a lot of people that say, well, I'm going to sit this one out because I'm not going to try I didn't have time to try this distribution. But you don't have to do that, because you can very easily come on here and talk to us about other things. Obviously, we're still going to do the distro challenge, but when we get to you to ask you about it, you can just say I didn't try it and move on. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if you don't like a distribution, or you tried it and you're not keen on it, that's okay too. When it comes your turn, and you say what you want to say. If you didn't like it, you say you didn't like it. You may give reasons why you didn't like it. I would appreciate it if you would do it in a nice way, because there's a lot of hard work that goes into all of this stuff. But it's definitely not something that you got to come on here and give favorable reviews to all. This is why we try it. It's a distro challenge. It's supposed to be fun. So if you do it, that's great. If you don't do it, that's also great. Okay, disclaimer out of the way. All right, PZ, did you try Kubuntu 1910?
I certainly did. And as I was explaining just before we came live on air, I did Rocco's favorite trick of old, and I did an extreme distro hop before we had Destination Linux last episode. So 3 hours before, I thought, oh, I think I'll install Kubuntu and give it a go. So I installed it, got it all up and running, got everything I wanted to do up and running and working, went on and did the show flawlessly. Plasma, and specifically Kubuntu, is becoming a rapid favorite of mine. For me, they just do things correctly. And let's start off at the top of the show. Double click by default is just awesome. I don't have to go messing around trying to find out where they've put stuff. It just there.
It was obviously an oversight, Seb.
No, it's not an oversight, and we'll get into that if someone else turns up on the show, and I think they might be here later. But no, they everything just works for me. And I know that's getting a bit old now, that I want a distro that just works, but Kubuntu is rapidly coming like peppermint. I can get my experience of Plasma, which I'm really starting to enjoy, because yes, I get where people say, oh, but Plasma's too confusing. It's got way too many settings that you can mess around. Well, don't mess with them. Just find something that you particularly go, oh, that really jars me. Work out how to fix it, and then just move on. You don't have to sit there and spend 3 weeks becoming a guru at Kubuntu. Install it, use it, take little bite-sized chunks at it. Because I was like everybody else in the old days, Kubuntu or KDE 4.4, and it was like, wow, what is this? I can't get used to this. And then when Plasma came out, it was even worse. But if you just take bite-sized chunks at it and learn each little bit as you go along, as long as they don't make a ridiculously radical change when they bring out Plasma 5.8.7.14.6 or whatever the number's going to be this week, as long as they don't change anything massive, you will eventually get used to where they put everything. Now, you might not like it, you might not like the workflow, but you will get used to doing the way they do things. And I think we'll hear later on from Tyler, where he runs KDE or Plasma, but he makes it look and feel like Unity. So it's that flexible. But I just like installing it. I know it's really childish, but I'm doing it now, and all your heads are going, I love wobbly windows. It's just it's
Wobbly
just,
windows are the best feature of Plasma.
Wait, look.
yeah, it's brilliant. So for me, thumbs up. Kubuntu is rock solid. It's there.
Wobbly windows, okay, you could say that's like very superficial or whatever, but in being in Linux for a while, there have been many different implementations of wobbly windows, but KDE Plasma has the best default wobbly windows. It's just perfect. It's not too much where the whole screen's shaking everywhere, but it's just enough to give you that that premium feel to the operating system. Yeah. It's nice.
And it still brings that wow factor. If I've got somebody who's just coming in and looking at my computer system for the first time and I happen to be on Plasma, I deliberately move the window from one screen to the other and they go, what was that? I know I said that. That's just one of 20 things you can do with Linux. It's fantastic. I love it.
PZ,
childish, but I love it.
Did Kubuntu uses 5.16? Did you add the PPA to get the latest KDE, or no? You just used it as it was?
No, I'm just running it as is. And I'm really interested, like I always am, in listening to what the rest of the crew has found, what they didn't change, what they didn't like. Because I'm sitting here thinking this is great. And at the end of the shows, I normally go, oh, I never spotted that. I can see it now. I can't unsee it. I'm going to have to go and change it, but I don't see it myself. So let's move on to the rest of them, because I'm really looking forward to what have they found that I missed.
Well, I can tell you that one thing that I did find, and it may not have anything to do with Kubuntu. It might just be the Ubiquity installer, but it doesn't do high DPI well. Like it doesn't.
Really?
It doesn't scale. When you go and you boot off the USB, and you don't go into the live CD, you just go to install Kubuntu. There's no option to change anything. So it doesn't automatically scale to a 4K screen. And like I said, I don't know if that's a Kubuntu thing or installer thing, but either way, that's one thing I did notice.
And did your installer work straight off the bat, or did you see? I get so nervous now with my RTX graphics card that I always use safe mode. So I always get a 1078 screen or whatever the default screen is, because I don't want to have the headache of it booting up and then you get all that fuzz and I have to reset it and boot it up again. So I always choose safe mode now.
It worked perfectly, and I didn't choose anything different than to just install it from the USB
from the thing. Yep. But once you got on the desktop, it was fine, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, then you can scale it and do whatever you want with it. But it's just the idea that when you're trying to install it, you're like squinting your eyes trying to. Well, okay, I was squinting my eyes because I'm getting older, and I can't see as well.
Please help.
I have contacts, dude. All right. Adam, sir, did you get to try Kubuntu 1910?
Nope. It's an awfully funny way to say Fedora, but whatever.
Right.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
It's okay, dude. It's perfectly fine. Colin, sir.
Yes, I've tried Plasma, Kubuntu 1910. Did my usual things on the laptop with the Optimus to see how that went. I've also run it on another desktop as well with, I think, Cape Verde, which is not NVIDIA, it's the other one. So on both seem to run pretty well. The Optimus so far, with all the Ubuntu derivatives we've tried on Optimus, is working fine. And myself, I find Kubuntu quite solid as well, I must say. And yet, Zeb, I'll go one better, wobbly windows and magic lamp.
See, now I was never a big fan of the magic lamp. I mean, it was kind of like, see, that's where I draw the line. It was a little too much.
Nah, it's awesome, dude.
Okay, all right.
I like it too.
But
it's not KDE for me without the magic lamp.
Yeah, it's it's the things like Zeb says. You don't have to touch anything. No, I think I touched everything and tried whatever and see what you can do. Plasma, there's just endless amounts of tweaks you can do. But yeah, I've got the latte dock in there and trying that out. And thanks, Chicken, for your video. I was just following that a little bit and just seeing what other things I didn't know about the latte dock. So Chicken highlighted a couple of things there for me. But yep, rock solid, running pretty well. Had no issues so far.
Colin, I was like, I haven't tried KDE in a while, and like on this machine, and I've been running Pop OS obviously, but I was like, when I booted into it, I was like Hammy the squirrel, dude. I was like everywhere. Ooh, I forgot about this. Ooh, let me check this setting. Oh, let me go here. I forgot to set that setting, and I was just like all over the place, dude. It was hilarious.
Yep. Yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole, can't you? With Plasma for sure. But just the everyday running, I think I tried. I can't remember what the email client it's got out of the box. Oh no, I tried Kmail. Nowhere near a fan of Kmail. I do not like that thing at all, to be honest. Thunderbird for me is pretty much the go-to email client for me. But that's the only thing I really didn't like about the defaults of Kubuntu is the email client, to be honest, to be truthful about it all.
So a quick question for you, Colin. You went in there and dived into every single bit that you could possibly find. Did you manage
not
to
everything.
Well, no, but did you manage to claw yourself back out of it again and still have a sane system? Yeah. So therefore, it might be a little bit confusing, but with a bit of patience and getting it all done, you came out at the end of it with a fully working, usable system, which is cool.
I will say one thing, Colin. I don't know, and I would like to hear your experience in it, but many times before, and I've been using KDE for a long time, many times before you mess with the settings and you experience random crashes. And I didn't have Plasma or anything basically crash the whole time I was using it in the settings. Did you?
Yep. No crashes for me, nothing. So just played around with it. I mean, what the other thing I like about Plasma is it's got so many choices of menus that you can change up. You can make it look like anything you want. You can go with the default panel. You can go with the latte dock. You can just change it up to look like anything. So, so that in itself is a bonus to me as well. So it's got a lot of flexibilities, and they got the nightlight now as well, which they included, which is great as well. So.
Somebody mentioned Plasma, and someone appeared.
Someone turned up.
Hi, Michael.
That's my experience anyway.
We'll get to you, Michael, on the second week, if that's okay.
Oh, gee.
That was perfect.
Because he hasn't been around, so he won't have twigged.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for that, Colin. Dan,
worries.
my friend, have you tried it?
I have. Plasma is, KDE Plasma on Kubuntu. That's one of my go-tos. It's number 2 probably for me. Longtime user. There's a lot of things that are really great. I know it's been around for a little while, but there's like the little touches. One of them is like the browser integration stuff. That's really cool. I mean, you don't see a lot of that, little touch stuff that in polish in all the distros, so that's nice to see. There are a myriad of options, obviously everybody knows that, and you can get yourself lost in it, but Kubuntu does a great job of delivering good defaults, so you don't have to mess around with it. You're like you said, Zeb, you can just get in it and run and be very satisfied with what you have. You don't have to get in there and faff with everything. It just works.
Did you just say faff, Dan?
I think I might have. Sorry,
that's not allowed here.
That's a very technical term.
Whoops. Didn't mean to get all technical. No, it's just wonderful. The theming is nice. Everything flows really well, and if you immerse yourself in the other KDE apps, you can have a really good ecosystem and have a good flow, I think.
Mhm.
So it works
It's
for me.
interesting. It's interesting you mentioned that the KDE the KDE browser or the Plasma
Yeah.
integration for the browser, because I've been reading quite a few bits of chat about people struggling to get Thunderbird to make it look more integrated. Is that a Thunderbird problem and not and something that the KDE team or the Plasma team could do like they did for the browser integration? Is that just too big a program to do?
Browser integration is not a theme thing. The browser integration is a integration with KDE Connect and other pieces where it has
Right.
notifications and stuff like that. So it's not
Right,
the same
okay.
thing.
Not the same
but
thing at all.
And-
Firefox's layout, like the UI of Firefox, has improved drastically. Like they have made it so much smoother to change the themes. They made their own Firefox color system thing,
Yeah.
and it's way easier to make it blend now versus Thunderbird, which has had like on the UI side nothing.
Yeah.
So the question is, will Thunderbird ever look good on KDE?
Yes. I mean, the thing is, it depends on what you mean by looking good. If it'll blend, yes, you can make it blend.
I said look good, Michael.
Okay, that's the problem with Thunderbird in general. It doesn't look good in general.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
it's
hard to
terrible
like, they have to get that done first and then yes.
Yeah, okay.
But-
Well, there's your next project. You sorted out Kubuntu's sane defaults. Now go and sort out Thunderbird. Good man.
Okay.
But
Before he can say no,
it
and
is
moving swiftly
it is
on.
GTK, so I mean, so there's only so much that Kubuntu can do with it, I guess. So it does have to come from Thunderbird.
Yes.
Gotcha.
they could just use Qt like a normal
Well, that
application.
would be wonderful, but yeah.
I'm the Firefox Plasma integration extension. The pet peeve I have with it is I use Firefox Sync, and whenever I went onto a Plasma distro and used Firefox Sync, it would add that extension to Firefox Sync. Then the next time I used Firefox, it would auto sync that extension, even if I wasn't using Plasma.
The same thing happened to me for GNOME extensions. Pizza.
Yeah.
Like, it
But
would
if
auto
it-
install
that would
it.
be
That's just a Firefox sync issue.
Yeah, it is.
That's a non-issue for me because I always use GNOME.
Yeah, what the thing is though, does that really matter? Because I mean, that happens to me on Peppermint, and I'm jumping around all over the place. But okay, so I've got the Plasma integration set up. If it can't find anything to integrate with, it just ignores it. It just sits there doing nothing. Surely,
Mhm.
it doesn't wreck anything to do with.
It doesn't do anything at all unless you have the actual Plasma integration package installed on your system. So
Right.
without that it's package, the extension doesn't do anything.
Well, the annoying thing about it is with the Plasma integration thing, it keeps giving you notifications saying that it isn't working right. Whereas with the GNOME integration, nothing happens. It just sits there.
Oh, that's unusual. I can't say I've ever seen that one, but hey,
That's a bummer.
but then I don't use GNOME, so
Yeah.
Well, that's just GNOME's extension not letting you know that it's not working, so you're not being notified that it's broken, which is like the GNOME way.
Stop it.
all
What?
right then. So thanks very much indeed.
That's why.
Dave.
That's why I switched to Cinnamon.
2 thumbs up for me.
Good. Joe, are you with us? And did you try Kubuntu?
No, I didn't. That really, other than when I was trying to come in through the VM today because you got me curious. So
So tell us what you did, Joe.
I installed it and I tried seeing if I could get the webcam to work. No, I've played with I played with it a little bit, but not enough to give a review on it. I did notice that even surprisingly, even in the VM, unless I'm just learning how to run a VM better, it was really pretty snappy. The one thing that that I never realized when I was passing through to my hardware out here through the VM is that there was an option for SSD, and it's like all of a sudden that seemed boom, 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 it came on a lot faster. So I am curious to see it on real hardware, and the reason why is there's a young man that I actually went over. I actually got him starting he's built his own system, and I got him a gaming system a while back, and I'd been talking, and he follows me quite diligently. And he's really started asking me the other night about Linux because he had serious problems with his Windows. He was losing his screens and all kinds of stuff. So I went over there, and I think we narrowed it down to maybe a display driver or something like that. But he was asking about Linux. So what I did is I loaded up a bunch of distros, but I went back to 1804s. Figured I'd get them started on LTSs. I'm going to bring them over there and let them run them. I did a multi-boot. But I would love to see which one he picks. And I think Kubuntu for him might be a good choice, but because he does a lot of video editing and stuff like that. He's doing stuff in 4K, and I do think he needs a better monitor for that. But it'd be interesting. I think Kubuntu would be a good choice. Now, if he's going to just look at gaming or something a little bit lighter and faster, I think Peppermint might be another choice. But my question to you is, I think personally we've said a lot of these distros aren't always great for the first time user. But if you're coming over for the first time, like maybe this young man is, he's pretty technical, that kind of thing. I don't think Kubuntu would be a bad choice for him starting out, even though we've often said there's, you could find the same thing in 5 different places on there. What do you have a thought on that? I guess is what I'd like to hear.
Well, if he's really, my thoughts are, if he's really is a technical user and doesn't mind digging into, things like that, then it probably would be something that would be good. If you want to know more and want to get into it further, then definitely I think it's a good system.
I think Kubuntu is a great way either way, whether if you want it to learn more or not, because the defaults are sane. So if you don't care and you just want to use it, you can just use it. And if you want to dig in, you have Plasma and you have every little knob and toggle that you could possibly want.
Right.
So it's a good way to learn if they
Or
want to
not
learn as
want.
well. You don't have to touch those if you don't want to.
Well, the tendency to bring people over that are new, you always hear about the blanket, Peppermint or Mint or whatever. But I think in this case here for him, especially with the editing he's doing, he does do some gaming. But I think what I'm going to try to do is see if he can get it set up with a dual boot with 2 different drives. So if he does want to go back into Windows for specific use, kind of like Rocco does or whatever, I think that would be a good choice for him. So, and I'm glad to see you're concurring with that, because I think from more of a production standpoint, I think, like you said, Michael, I think Kubuntu would be a good choice. But for myself, unfortunately, I do see even right away when I loaded it up, obviously the wallpaper is the first thing you see, but it seemed like they did some nice polishing up on it, but I didn't have a good chance to really compare it to the previous version. So,
all right. Well, thanks, Joe. Tony, did you get a chance to try Kubuntu?
Yes, I had it installed on the testing laptop and played around with it for quite a bit. I've also run it previously on the main machine for a few days. I do like it. The settings were a bit of a pain at times, but once you've used it a few times and been through them, you get used to finding where things are. It becomes less of a problem. The only thing I found with it was I use Audacious as a music player. And no matter what I did with it, it would not properly apply the dark theme. There was a white section within it where you could not read what was going on. And I tried other themes and all sorts of bits and pieces. The only way I could get it to work was to use light theme on a GTK, I think it's a 2 app, not a 3. But whichever one of those I changed to a light theme, that became a light theme on that only. And then it worked properly. I don't know why it's like that, but I've also tried KDE Neon, and that has the same problem with that as well.
I've noticed that Adocious, I did a video where I tried like a bunch of music players, and Adocious was the only Qt music player that had issues of dark themes. Basically, the only way to get it working right with a dark theme is to use a dark theme on Oxygen, the Qt theme Oxygen, because all of the icons and stuff were kind of made to work with Oxygen. And then when Plasma moved over to Breeze, I feel like they didn't really update Adocious to use Breeze. So because of that, Adocious only really looks good on Oxygen.
Ah, okay, might be worth trying that.
So
I tend to.
It really depends on.
That doesn't make sense.
It also depends on the color scheme too. But
Yeah, it's not Qt based. It's
Adobe
GTK.
Shift?
No, yeah, it's GTK.
I might be thinking of another one. There's one KDE
Is
music player.
there a cute version of it though?
They have a Qt version, but by default, that's not what's. You have to choose the Qt version when you install.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Hold
you just
on,
install Audacious, you're going to get the GTK2 version.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah.
It was the GTK2. If I changed that to a white theme, Audacious would be white. I bet everything was working properly. You could see it, whereas the dark theme doesn't work properly.
Yeah, the issue is that is GTK. Well, GTK2 is deprecated, so the fact that they still use that is unfortunate. But the issue there is that you have to go into the GTK, the window decorations and the GTK specific decorations to change the settings there. And there's also a checkbox that says prefer dark theme in order for it to do it.
I ticked all those, but it still didn't seem to want to work properly for me. So.
Yeah,
it depends on the certain themes. But you can also do a environmental variable where you can specifically say, you can launch an application with a specific theme if you want to. I'll send you that if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. I'm not that technical a user, so.
I was just about to say, even with me, that one went like.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's save the extra stuff for after we get done with Kubuntu, because there's a lot of people yet that want to talk about it. So.
Yep.
But generally, it's a thumbs up. Just one or two little niggly problems, but it depends, I suppose, on what software you're using. If somebody else is using a different music player, they wouldn't have the problem. So,
yeah. What was the other one? You said it was 2.
Although by default,
I'm thinking. Sorry,
I can't remember what the other problem was I had. It was something that was niggling me on it that I managed to. I think I did manage to fix that.
Okay,
but
cool.
I was thinking of Amarok.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thanks, Tony. Kevin, good to see you. Did you get a chance to try Kubuntu?
I did not.
Okay.
I have used Kubuntu in the past, but quite honestly, I showed up tonight hoping that somebody would convince me to go back to KDE on Fedora. So
I got this.
We can do
Challenge
that.
Accepted.
We can do that later. We'll definitely talk about that.
We'll get there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get you there. Dan, Kelly, you get a chance to try Kubuntu?
I'm on it right now. However, I've only been on it for about 24 hours. Actually, I kind of really like it. I'm starting to warm up to it. I'm a non-biased on KDE.
Me too.
Well, we've done other KDE distros, but I never really got into them or took a liking to them or an interest in them. This one I played with a lot more and dug a lot more deeper into the settings and stuff like that, just see what I could get out of it. My first initial thing with it was the installer, because my drive is all manually partitioned out, and it didn't connect my home partition to the rest of the system, so I had no home files. So I had to learn how to do some fstab editing and stuff like that, and I was able to bring that into full light. So I was having a better time after I got that hooked up. I went through the settings and looked at most of them, and I did for the theming. I didn't find one that quick clicked with me in the settings, but it had a place where you could download additional ones. And the first one at the top that was really eye-catching was one called Sweet. I installed that. It's extremely colorful. I really like it. It's like Christmas time. I mean, it really puts some life into it. Another thing I want to bring up right off the bat, I love the way KDE or Ubuntu KDE, however you want to say it, at the beginning, they know you have 2 monitors. You get to select how to set them up right off the start.
That is awesome.
Then you are able to actually select different wallpapers for each monitor without a hassle or adding any other programs. So that's a big plus for me. No hassle, dual monitor or multi-monitor setup.
Yep.
And And that really was something that I really enjoyed. One thing I didn't like, because I had to do some editing and dig around in the main filing system, is there's no access by root through Dolphin.
Correct.
Yeah. So that put me to the next spot. I installed Nemo. That allowed me to do my digging around in the root to make things work the way they want, because I have configuration files for Ubuntu to make the audio work right with my hardware. And I did that, play around with that some. Another thing that boggled my mind is I like to have some desktop drive icons. Like I like to have the home folder icon. I like to have for 3 other drives on my desktop so I can open them up and move things around at will. I discovered how to add those to the desktop by simply opening Dolphin and right-clicking on it, and you just drag the drive out, and then a box pops up and asks you if you want to link it to the desktop. That works great. So that's something that's also a plus that I was able to overcome too. Some things I did have some issues with was default applications for files. If you go into that setting, there's like a limit of 3 things. Mail, web browser, and something else. There's nothing for audio, video to select a default program to run those in. However,
it's just not positioned in the right place.
Well, I was able to overcome that by actually going to the video file I wanted to watch and just right-clicking on that, and you could go through there, and there's a setting to set that file extension to whatever program you want, and you've done it at the file level.
The reason I'm saying is, like, if you go to the system settings and there's the default applications thing, that's more like a category style for like the most common. There's also a file associations, which has every file, and you can do it there. But that is a lot of, it is weird that they're different places.
Yeah, because I'm coming into this as a fresh user's point of view. From going through so many XFCE and GNOME type distros that we've done all the way back to Endeavor OS. If you think about all those distros we've done, this one is the most different. And other than that, settings, menu items.
So, Dan, overall, would you rate it a good experience or bad experience?
I think I'm going to keep it.
There we go.
Hey,
I think I'm going to keep it for a while.
That's a plus right there. If you can say you're going to keep it for a while, that's a plus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that 2 clicks up or 1 click up? Michael wants to know.
2 clicks up.
Whatever.
I like it.
I'll use the default settings. But yeah, I don't want to eat up everybody's time, so we can move on.
All right, Ben. I know that you tried it, and I know that you're not a big fan of KDE, but tell us what you think.
Actually, with Kubuntu, that has drastically changed, my friend. Kubuntu has changed my mind. I love KDE now.
And what do you think the main reason for that is?
Well, for one thing, the NVIDIA detector in Ubuntu, heck of a lot. I'm going to say, square flat out say it, their NVIDIA detection, top dang notch. I'm convinced. I'm so convinced by it that I may just say screw it and just put it on my Optimus laptop, because I tell you, here's the thing, Zed. From what you've told me since we've met all those years ago, you were right. Their NVIDIA driver, spot on. Never given me hell at all. I love their NVIDIA driver.
Cool.
And you know what? I'm happy, even tempted to put it on this Mac I'm talking to you guys on, without a question. So yeah, I give Kubuntu 19.10 2 very big thumbs up. hands down. And this is coming from a Gen 2 nutball. I might just say, read between the lines, Gen 2, and go to Kubuntu.
Nice.
All right, thanks, Ben.
No problem.
Tyler, sir.
Well, I haven't been doing much differently this last week. Kubuntu on the desktop, Kubuntu on the Galago. What I usually run. I've been running Kubuntu 19.10 since release day. I did the in-place upgrade on the Galago and the desktop. A couple hiccups here and there when I did the in-place upgrade, but otherwise it's been smooth sailing since I am running the backports for Plasma 517 because, of course, I want the latest. But thinking back to some of the defaults that I had to change, let's say when I installed it on another machine, I think the pain points that still exist for me are some of the keyboard shortcuts. Like they're for switching virtual desktops, there are no keyboard shortcuts by default for switching virtual desktops.
Yes, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, and it's awful.
It's like Meta F1, I think.
No,
Meta
it's
2 and Meta.
No, when I go to set,
it's Control
like,
F8.
When I go to set, no, that's for the grid. I'm talking like to the one to the right, the one to the left, the one above you, the one below you. Those don't have keyboard shortcuts set by default. And that's always a good couple minutes going in there and setting that. But to your point, Michael, yes, the Control F8 and some of the shortcuts for other K1 effects, those defaults
I'm working on
are
those.
still awful, especially coming from way back in the day. Compiz had some good defaults for those shortcuts, but
I'm working on those.
Yeah. Beyond that, I love Plasma. I love the flexibility, as Zeb alluded to earlier. I don't have a very default setup. I replaced the panel with Latte Dock, and I have it set up to be very Unity-like. I have the global menu. I have the window controls on the top panel, and I just love the fact that Plasma offers me the flexibility to be able to do that.
All those sounds like really good opinions.
Yep.
I agree. Kubuntu is the best.
Great stuff. All right, then, Tyler, thanks very much indeed. Chris, you're up. Did you try it?
I was very pleasantly pleased with the ease of the install. And it was, I didn't have to fight with the disk partitioning. It did what I wanted to do, and it worked great, and didn't have a problem with that. And then installing the PPA was almost a no-brainer, and was pretty easy once I figured out how to get the installer going. But then the far as operation, what I used it for this week, which wasn't a whole lot, but I did not have any problem with it. The only drawback I have is the fact that when I ran the update right after the install, it took about an hour to update, and that's possibly because of my decrepit hardware. By the way, I mean, I'm running a 1.8 gigahertz Celeron dual core with 2 gigs of memory, and did not have a problem with lag or anything like that, even with Plasma. So I don't know if it's the Plasma team or the Ubuntu team or Kubuntu team, whatever they've done for optimization, they did a really good job with it. So don't have anything else other than that.
It does help if I unmute myself before I try to talk again. Okay, Derek, my friend, are you there?
Yes, I am. Basically, I found the install process very smooth. The couple things I did find in there was the fact that the themes were nice. They had a good selection of wallpapers. I didn't really get much of a chance to be able to fully put it for the ringer. I'm not a big fan of KDE, so but it was a good job of what they did. The defaults were nice.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Derek. Pizza, did you get a chance to try Kubuntu?
You're muted, dude.
You're muted, Pizza.
I think we muted you because of the background noise.
There we go. You're back.
I didn't for two reasons. One, I have an internet data limit, and my stepdad downloaded 400 gigs of games.
Nice.
Wow.
And two, I'm not really I have issues with the Plasma desktop. One, with gaming. I always have compositing issues, and the fixes people. There are fixes on the internet. None of those work with my graphics card, NVIDIA 970. So
Just
I
turn
can't
off
put.
the compositing blockers.
I did. That doesn't work.
We'll fix it.
And two, so because of that, I just don't run Plasma on my main computer. And two, I use a lot of GDK3 apps, and client-side decorations are a nightmare on Plasma.
Disagreed.
But I am also disappointed that it didn't ship with, I think, Plasma 5.17? The new Plasma.
Well, it's kind of impossible to ship on the exact same day as the other one.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just
code
a little
freeze
bit
thing.
disappointed.
You shouldn't be disappointed for them to be shipping something an hour before the Plasma new version comes out. I mean, you could be disappointed in KDE if you want to.
Sooner. I thought it came out sooner.
Plasma came out after.
It was well after Feature Freeze.
Oh, I'm just saying.
No, they came out the exact same day.
Yeah.
I know you can get the back ports. I'm just saying. I thought it came out earlier. I remember using
exact same day.
I just want to ask: did anybody try the backports PPA?
Tyler does. Yeah.
Eric did. Okay. Colin, you did as well. Okay.
Yeah, always.
I did not get that far, so just saying.
Yeah,
me neither.
Yeah, I was too busy playing with all the bling.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Pizza. Paul, did you get a chance to try Kubuntu?
Yeah, I did. Playing with it right now while I'm listening to you guys.
Yeah. What do you think?
I turned up my wobbly windows a little bit too much.
Oops.
Is that even possible?
Mm-hmm.
You can turn them right up. Yep.
You can turn them to ridiculous. It'll actually warp it.
Are they all wibble and no wobble?
No, it'll wobble.
Oh yeah,
right off your screen.
Nice.
Question is, will there be timey-wimey?
Maybe.
So what's your overall impression, Paul?
Oh yeah, I've always liked Kubuntu. It's been one of my favorites. I'd have to go Kubuntu, then Monte, and put Ubuntu down at the bottom.
Gotcha. Good stuff.
All right, Mr. Chicken. Now I know that you're a Plasma lover, but have you been using Kubuntu? I think you have, right?
I have. It's kind of weird because
might have put out a video on it.
I might have. I don't know.
Might have been hanging out in like the Kubuntu help Telegram.
Wow, Chicken. Wow, I am shocked.
It got so bad that somebody asked me a question about Plasma in one group, and I replied to someone else completely irrelevant in another group, and it was like a massive wall of text that had nothing to do with what they were talking about.
Do we have to send the report card in to Daniel?
Probably. So I've been loving Kubuntu. I may or may not have been biased when I voted last week because I already had it installed. And it's been fantastic. There's one problem that I always have with KDE that I just haven't experienced in this release of Kubuntu, and that was mentioned earlier, and it's the constant crashing and weird issues when you adjust panels or applets or widgets, whatever you want to call them. I also like to call that the Mate problem because that happens when you switch layouts and stuff like that. The system is fine, but something somewhere crashes and then something somewhere else crashes and you get told about it all the time. And that just has not happened to me at all in this release of Kubuntu. They've absolutely nailed the implementation of this. I haven't noticed any issues with graphical problems. I'm running an NVIDIA card, and I know a lot of people tend to notice issues with NVIDIA and KDE together. Nothing's been happening so far. I'm still using 5.16.5. I haven't added the PPA. I have kind of two major complaints. One of them stems from KDE itself, and that's workspace behavior. The fact that I can't create workspaces dynamically and they don't just, it's a very sort of rigid system, essentially slows me down. I'm better off just not having workspaces at all if I can't create new ones on the fly. And also the hotkeys are terrible, but you know, Michael will get on that. And then the other thing is just in terms of the set of default applications, I don't believe there needs to be as much as there is. I feel like it was kind of just throwing everything that fit a certain type of application in the bag into the system. Conversation makes sense because there's a Kubuntu IRC group, but I saw like K3B in there. There was a whole bunch of weird like Tiger VNC. Like, I don't know if that really makes sense as a default included application. But it was nice to see things like Kate in there for the text editor, which is a fairly nice, extensive text editor. Things like GwenView in there for your image editor and viewer. Overall, it was a good experience. The theme by default is fantastic. So it's not super bright, but it's not all blacked out. It's a perfect mix. I believe they introduced that a few versions back, but it's,
1804.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's my idea.
All in all, super stable. And performance has been fantastic for me. I've had zero issues with frame drops, stuttering, anything like that. So yeah, fantastic release.
Excellent.
You said something about there's something I wanted to say, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Now I forgot what it was.
About the workspaces dynamically.
Probably about the workspaces.
Oh yeah, you can't really. You can quickly add them, but there's not a way to do a dynamic way. But I do agree that the shortcuts are awful, and I'm trying to work on that. Kubuntu will have them addressed at some point. There actually was a lot of stuff that was added this release that are very tiny things that are so much nicer in Kubuntu in comparison to Plasma. But I do agree that those are issues.
Sweet.
So, well, thank you, Chicken, for that. And Michael, do you have anything specific you want to talk about, or do you want me to go on? And
are you asking Michael to talk about KDE?
Well,
I mean, is that what you just did?
I just was there anything like marquee in 19? Actually, yeah, let's see what Ricky has to say, and then we'll.
Yeah, because Kubuntu is something like I could talk for hours, so we should just let's.
Right.
I'll just rebuttal everybody.
So there's this guy named Ricky Aka. Who's this? I don't know. Hey Ricky, how are you? Good to see you.
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm actually on Kubuntu right now.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
This version of Kubuntu is definitely better than the last version I tried. I mean, there's a lot more stuff added. I can pretty much customize it into any way I want right now. I'm on the live CD right now, and I have it customized exactly like a Windows 10 machine, and I absolutely love the heck out of it. The graphic and driver detection is just spot on. The Firefox Plasma browser integration, I have no problems with that. That's amazing. And the one thing I like about Kubuntu specifically is the removable media detection. Out of all the Linux distros I've tried, Ubuntu has always been known in any of its flavors to have a marvelous removable media detection. I mean, I pretty much put in my headset and I'll pretty much work on putting in my iPod later on. But other than that, removable media detection spot on, and that's really all I have to say about Kubuntu. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like you were able to do some customization, which is great.
Oh yes, yes. That's the final thing I want to point out is customization is a lot better in 19.10 than in 18.04.
Excellent. Okay. And you know, a lot of that has to do with the newer version of Plasma itself. 1804 is still 5.12, I believe. Yeah, so they've done a lot of work in the last several releases of Plasma. So, and so I mean, I'm next, so I'll just sort of say I'm not going to take a lot of time. I've used Kubuntu for quite a long time, many years, and yeah, years ago actually I did have some issues with the earlier versions of Plasma 5, but I mean recently it's been, I would say since the 1810 release, it's been pretty solid. And I always run the backports because Rick Mills does such a good job of keeping them up to date. And so basically, you run the backports, you've got the solid Ubuntu base, which is only ever going to be as old as 6 months. And then you've got pretty much the latest version of Plasma right away. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but Rick gets it out there pretty immediately. I don't ever have any stability issues. The only complaints I ever have, they're the same complaints every single time. There's a bug where the GTK apps don't inherit the themes properly, so you have to go in and switch it around. The not having the GTK portal for the file picker for Firefox installed by default seems dumb to me because it's there. Why not use it and have it look right on Plasma? And not having virtual desktops configured at all just seems goofy to me. But I know that's an upstream KDE Plasma thing. So, but for the most part, I mean, I can get a Kubuntu desktop up and running with backports right away. There's almost nothing I need to change. The theming's perfect for me. It's double click. That's not even like a joke. Like it's literally everything I would do just to have it be the basic starting point. And, you know, when Michael says it's the best Plasma experience out of the box, like I've tried all of them and I completely agree with that. And that is a very personal statement because I know people like different things, but
observational fact is what that is.
Okay. Well, there you go. I guess that was factual information.
Thank you.
You heard it here first.
It is the best period by default out of the box. I'm curious what you said about the GTK stuff not working. Is it just because it's not like when you change a theme, it's not changing the GTK version 2 or something?
No, when you go into application appearance, I forget I think it's application appearance, something like that, and the
application style.
Sorry, thank you.
They changed it. It was appearance.
Well, they also changed instead of having 2 notifications listed in the system settings, they finally changed it so it's notifications and then notifications other instead of just notifications and notifications, which was like, okay, you say so. Anyway, so under the application style, it already has Breeze set as the GTK theme. But if you install like FileZilla or something like that and start it up, it does not look right. So if you go in, change it to anything else and then change it back to Breeze, apply, then it's fine. And there's something to do with it's not writing out the proper configuration file by default. Weird. It's been that way for 2 releases now, three now. So
I'll get right on it.
Get on it, man.
Yeah, get on it.
What was the other thing about the GTK dialogue? You don't like the Qt or the KWin open?
No, I do, but it's not there by default.
Really?
Maybe
I changed that. Okay.
So, but that's it. I mean, those are such minor things.
Yeah.
And
I'm just making a list. That's all.
I think KDE and specifically Kubuntu are great. I think the one drawback for people is that you do have to use or do so much configuring. Now, Kubuntu is way better than stock KDE. Okay.
Yes.
But you still have to do a lot of configuring for stuff that in other desktops or OS's distributions are there by default.
Such as
what Eric was talking about. The menu when you're searching, like, okay, so I'm not a big fan of the KDE menu, the default one. I'll usually put one of the other menus on, but you can't, when you search for that, you, in most other distributions or some other, well, we'll just say in GNOME, you get a whole listing of, say you search for Amarok, you're going to get it listed as in the store, the software center. So you can go to install it from right there, which doesn't happen in KDE.
Doesn't happen in the menu, does happen in KRunner. Not ideal. I agree.
Right. Stuff like that just, I don't know. To me, it should be there. If there's a lot of configuration that goes into it.
I don't think that's even possible to configure.
And workspaces, I think that's an important thing, because I messed around with Cube for about an hour and realized there was no workspaces. That's why I couldn't get it working.
Well, for example, Michael, another example would be by default, and I have multiple monitors, the windows do not open up on the main monitor, the primary monitor. And it's always been that way for me. I can go in and I can switch it and follow the mouse and all that stuff, but by default,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When does it open on the secondary monitor when there's nothing open, or if there's something else already on the secondary monitor?
There's I opened Dolphin. There was nothing on the secondary monitor. I opened Dolphin, and I wasn't even working on that monitor. I was working here. I was in the menu, and I just thought,
and it still went over there.
I'm going to open up Dolphin, and bang, it's over on the other monitor. It's like, I mean, I know it could be fixed, but those are little things that, to me,
I agree. The thing that
be...
Plasma's issues is that it doesn't have polish. I agree. That's one of those. That's another one on the list.
On the list.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's one that you can fix, and it's not necessarily a Plasma problem. It's a Linux problem. Nightlight that everybody's now introducing, where you can just click the button and it turns all the monitors to night, unless you've got a triple display, and then it ignores one of them.
Oh, that's weird.
So another
get on it, Michael.
Another bad
I'll get on it. It's on the list.
So another bad default in Kubuntu is it's double click and not single click.
Correct, Tyler. Yeah. You are absolutely correct. Thank you very much.
You are both welcome to have your preference, but you were just not. You're wrong on the default. But
all right, let's get these last couple guys in here, and then we can open it up for anything. JJ,
how's it going, you guys? Do I sound okay?
You sound perfect, sir.
Alrighty, so as you probably may already figured out from last week that I mentioned, I am using Kubuntu on my laptop as my main Linux OS. So I've been using it ever since the prior version, 1904, and last week I was able to get the update to update it to 1910 finally, even after doing a little bit of beta test work. But some small, like you've mentioned before, Kubuntu is near perfect. It's just those small bits of polish that need to be worked out in order to make it the perfect Ubuntu variant. I'm not sure if any of you experienced this, but in my experience, I put the key notifier up in the upper left-hand corner. It always shows up as blank. It doesn't have an icon for it when I set the num lock or any sort of lock on my keyboard. My laptop keyboard does not have a keyboard light for the num lock or any of the scroll lock or anything like that. And having a notification for that would be awesome. But I mean, maybe I can just tell from hovering over, but that's still one of those nitpicks. Another thing is I always have, with many other Ubuntu variants and many other Ubuntu variants, I have to manually change the mic and headset settings mainly change the mic settings whenever I come in, such that I don't blow everybody's ears off when I first come into the room. So it's sorry. And,
JJ?
Yeah, what's up?
You're talking about the caps lock monitor thing, the little widget you can put on the taskbar, yeah?
Yes, and mine's blank for some reason.
And you're saying the numbers lock doesn't work?
The nums lock does work, it just doesn't appear as if I am having a status of num lock.
Cool. So what you need to do is right mouse click that, go configure keyboard indicator and tick nums lock, because it does work. Because I've got exactly the same type of keyboard where there's no lights, and that is a godsend. But it took me ages to find it. Right mouse click, configure, and then tick num locks, and then it should work from there.
Yeah, I mean, it still shows up as blank for me, but maybe it's just my icon theme. I don't know. I'm just trying. Maybe I'm hopefully it's not too bad. Maybe some icon things I could get some recommendations after the show, possibly, if there's anybody.
The frustrating thing is if you've got nums lock on and then you hit caps lock, it only shows an A, so you can't see the 1. But the minute you take caps lock off, the 1 is visible again for me. And if I turn nums lock on, it's just a keyboard.
I don't.
So, are we talking about in the panel or in STDM?
In the panel. In the panel.
Yeah, so I only see signifier for caps lock. I don't see it for anything.
Yes, chicken.
What about if you right mouse click it, chicken? And configure.
Oh, if you right click it, you can add num lock. That makes sense.
Yeah, I already added it. It still doesn't show up, but maybe
It
that's
shows
just
up for me now. That's
Yeah.
weird.
That should be on by default, should it not?
Yeah, I would assume
If you're going to
so.
have an indicator, it should indicate both caps lock and nums lock.
Yeah, I agree.
It's another
Unfortunately,
one you
that's
missed, Mike.
a plasma.
I love
thing.
it.
Yeah.
I can't put that on the list. That's a plasma thing, not a Kubuntu thing.
Okay, yeah, but but again with the headset volume always being randomly set whenever I plug in my headset and something not being at the same level every single time, it's one of those annoying things. Maybe there are a few other nitpicks that I'm not getting across, but all in all, Kubuntu has been there for me, being my main Linux OS. So I'll give it to the rest of the floor for any other stuff they want to talk about.
Thank you, JJ. Aris, sir, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Did you get to try it, dude?
Yeah, that's my main distro, Kubuntu.
How did I not know that?
I don't know. I used to be a KDE Neon, and then I went to Debian. And once Plasma fixed their font rendering better, then that's when I switched over to Kubuntu. Kubuntu, I highly customize. I don't use pretty much anything default. I don't like. I tried going with a white panel with the night shift or red shift on, and I've been using it ever since. Instead of using the dark panel, so I don't use the dark panel at all for anything anymore. And I think I don't like the fact that if you use a dark panel, your eyes get accustomed to that, and then if you open a web page, you're blinded with that white light. So I'd rather just have everything white to begin with, and then your eye adjusts to that, and it's better for me. And I just lower the brightness of the monitor. That's for me. I mean the panels I put at the top. I put the clock like GNOME. I don't like a lot of things put in GNOME. I think the clock that's the right setting for me at least. The clock in the middle. I put single click. Everything pretty much.
I love it.
So many things of Kubuntu I changed. I don't think I would recommend this for other people, but for me, I do a lot of changes. I added the HUD to Plasma. One bug that I did encounter is I installed Kubuntu. I even installed it again just to see if it's still there. I installed Kubuntu, and then my wallpaper goes away, and I can't right click where the wallpaper is. And this is I installed the distro with the proprietary drivers on. I have a 390 because I have a old graphics card, and I was showing a black wallpaper. And this is before any updates. And then afterwards, I did the PPA to install updates, and I get it randomly. It's not all the time. Sometimes I just get a black screen. I don't know what that's about.
And what do you do to fix it?
Oh, I have a script that restarts Plasma. And then
just Plasma shell space -- refresh works.
Yeah, so
just
something
type
like
it from the desktop or Alt F2.
Yeah,
because that happens on my monitors every now and again. One will just go completely black. You can't right mouse click. You can't do anything.
Yeah,
so you just have to restart the Plasma shell from an Alt F2.
The interesting thing, I did get this sometimes in Debian also, and Debian's like a way older version, but I never got that I think in KDE Neon, which I'm not sure why. But I ended up going off KDE Neon because I was getting breakages with packages. It was just too many updates. I got to the point where I couldn't use app images. I don't know why they wouldn't open. So I dropped that and went to Debian. I mean, I love Plasma. I love the flexibility. It's like kind of like what I like Linux for. So many options, so many flexibility, so many settings. I guess to some people that's a bad thing. For me, it's good. I wish actually there were more settings, and by that I mean for the settings, for the system settings, I wish everything was integrated. Like those desktop settings when you right click for the wallpaper, that's not integrated into that. I wish that was part of it somewhere in there. Also, the workspaces, I wish that was also integrated to system settings. Like if everything was in there, and I wouldn't have to look around. It is.
Those are all in the
All
main
that is.
screens.
Oh, well, I can't find it.
They're just in weird places.
Because I've searched for it and I couldn't find. I don't know. I guess I didn't search hard enough.
So to get to workspaces, they're called virtual desktops. So you go into desktop behavior and then virtual desktops, and then you can modify the desktops there. If you want to change the configuration of how they're laid out, that is in the desktop behavior. Then you go to desktop effects, then you scroll all the way down, find desktop grid, click the configure button on that, and there you go. It needs to be more polished.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, they're
They
they're
should just
hard to get
change
to
their
some.
search so it's just Michael answering everybody's questions.
Yeah, but the one thing I do appreciate about Kubuntu I haven't said is I appreciate the backports that they put the effort into putting in the backports for the new version when it comes out, and that's one
that's
thing I
cool.
appreciate a lot.
They do it within like maybe a day or two too.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think it's a good distro. I personally don't use pretty much anything stock, so I couldn't speak of the stock settings. Also, I did notice that the screen tearing is worse now than it was the last time we reviewed it. I don't know what that's about. But I had like almost no screen tearing last time, and this time I did get screen tearing, and I worked around that by now allowing the flipping or whatever thing it's called, and that seemed to work out. But overall, I think Kubuntu is a great distro, and I mean it's my main distro.
See, Michael's voice needs to be in the Kramer voice, an audio thing. When you do a search, he goes, "Why don't you just tell me what you want me to find?"
Cool. All right. So, Steve, welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How did you find the PEP this week? Was it good? Oh, sorry, Kubuntu. My bad.
Actually, I didn't do. I been in Farron Next all week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was looking
That's
at
plasma too, so it's okay.
Right. All right, Michael, I'm going to add to your list here. Why is the best application in KDE not installed by default in Kubuntu?
Give me the genre of app, and let's see if I can get what you're talking
Caden Live.
Tweaks.
Tweaks.
Oh, tweaks.
KDE tweaks.
Latte doc.
Latte doc.
Oh, tweaks. Latte doc. Oh, because not everybody wants a doc, and the default layout of
Not everybody wants
Kubuntu.
Kmail either, but
That's not true. Kmail is the most. So
The
anyway,
reasons why a minimal install is important.
I mean,
they
not
have a
everyone
minimum
has
install. There is a minimal install.
But
on
this is
Kubuntu.
not just any application. This is like one of the best applications that KDE has.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, like, because even though I do use Latte Doc, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that as a default application, it probably shouldn't be there until there's like a layout switcher that can do things with the doc, kind of like how Mate has Plank installed by default. It's only really useful if you're actually using it. Otherwise, if you have it in there by default, I mean,
You could have it
Which is
installed
what
and just not
Farron
have it
does.
loaded, I guess, maybe. But like Latte
That's what
Doc is
Farron does.
great, but by default you have you have the panel as the Windows paradigm, so there's not really a place to put the dock unless you have it on the side, and then it just doesn't work with that paradigm, unfortunately. But I think that's why they really shouldn't have it by default. But they could have it installed and make it easier to activate and switch to or whatever.
Yeah, that would be my thing. Just have it installed so I can just start it up if I want it. Yeah. If I don't want it, I think
wish
it would
they
also
actually made this look and feel system not bad.
I think it would get a lot more, press basically if it was installed but not on. Because people would notice it, they'd come across it, and they would say, "Hey, what's this?"
It does have default layouts, but it doesn't do a very good job of calling them the surface. Like there is a default, Unity layout. There's a default KDE layout, but you have to right-click the panel and go to, I don't even remember what the option's called.
But that's only for Latte Doc.
That's what I'm saying. So I mean, it's there, but I think if Latte Doc had a sort of startup wizard, it would probably help a little bit get people acclimated, because there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah,
right. It's just like in any other KDE app, right? I mean, it's like there's so many options and settings.
Yeah,
but
Well, look, I installed Kubuntu, and other than the high DPI part of the installer, it went flawless. So that was fine. And like I said before, I was like Hammy the squirrel, dude. I was like looking everywhere. I hadn't been on a KDE desktop on this machine in a long time, so I was just like looking through everything and just going nuts with it. It was great. I was through the settings multiple times and didn't have one crash. I did have problem with the driver manager. So I opened up the driver manager and it would not refresh. So basically it just sat there white.
Same here.
So yeah, on the high DPI thing, that is one thing I wish Plasma did better is automatic detection of the high DPI situation.
Yep.
I know GNOME tends to handle it really well. Mate handles it really well. Budgie, which is GNOME based, will automatically set your scaling based on the type of display you have.
Does GNOME even have fractional scaling yet?
Not by default.
Fractional, no, but it automatically detects your scaling and automatically sets an integer scale based on what kind of display you have.
So it does, but only on Wayland. It's experimental on X. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there is fractional scaling in Plasma, but it doesn't have they don't have detection for it. That would be nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, this is really strange because you all know that I've got this 35-inch widescreen as my middle monitor, and I upscale it to 4K. Plasma has already unticked 96 DPI for the fonts and made it bigger. And I have to go back in and force it down because I don't want huge, great fonts. So for me,
So it was detected for you?
the fact that I've gone to a 4K screen, I've made my 1440 monitor into a 2160 monitor, and it goes, oh, that's way too small. And then when I start opening applications up on my nice new 4K screen, it's changed all the font sizes and made them big. So I think it's automatic detection of HIDPI is great out of the box. If you've just got my two 27-inch 4K on, it's brilliant. It just works.
It's not actually doing high DPI detection. So the problem there is that it's doing font scaling based on multiple displays rather than doing actual display scaling based on.
No, it can be doing font scaling based on the high DPI. The issue is that they have font scaling and display scaling is a separate thing.
Yeah, it's only doing the fonts.
Yeah, but in Kubuntu, I don't have to change my the Windows buttons in the top right hand corner. They all I can see them perfectly well. Firefox scales better than everyone else. I mean, I have a great experience on Kubuntu in that regard.
Nice.
Now, even in the VM, when I ran it in the VM, it was fine. I've got a 34-inch widescreen as well, and I had it set to detect what I have for hardware on here to pass throughs, and it was fine on mine too.
And this last one that I have is more of a KDE thing, but I don't know if you guys ran into the same thing, but I was in the shortcuts for the keyboard shortcuts in the settings, and there's no global search. So you have to click on a category before the search will be there. So then you type in, say, desktop. But if you're in the wrong category, you're not going to come up with it. Unless I was missing it somewhere.
Are you talking system settings?
System settings and keyboard
at the top
shortcuts.
left, there's a search box.
That's a search box for the settings itself, but not to search for a keyboard shortcut.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, so yes, it's ridiculous.
I mean, shouldn't there just be a general category that you could just search for you're not searching
searches for whatever specific component you are selecting.
Right.
So
you shouldn't need to select a component. What's that?
What were you trying to search for?
I don't even remember, Zeb. I don't know if it was the workspace. I think it was the workspaces. And then I realized that the workspace switcher was on the panel.
Kwin.
So I didn't have to, search for it because
they don't call them workspaces, though, do they?
Virtual desktops.
Right. But what I'm saying is there's no general, in the keyboard shortcuts, there's no general spot that you can just search and find something. You have to click on a category before you can search, which if you're in the wrong category, you're not going to find it. And then you have to click
every
on a
single component.
Well, but not only that, when you click on a different category, your search is gone then. So you have to type it in again. And So now you have to type it in for every category. That's like ridiculous, dude.
You know what's interesting?
I
is that
agree.
They
I
actually
agree.
have this feature for keyboard shortcuts in Minecraft. So there you go.
All right. Yeah, that's all I got on
Minecraft answers
KDE.
all the questions.
Vin, are you there, sir?
Vin.
Vin? Is that what his name is?
Hello.
What's happening, brother?
What's happening? Cheers from Brazil, guys.
Did you get to look at Kubuntu?
Not yet. I put a new installation of Arch Linux today, and I still rising.
Very nice. All right. That is our take on Kubuntu 1910. Overall,
Just make a synopsis, summary. It's the best distro, period. You're welcome.
Overall, it was a great experience, I gotta say, and I really did miss playing around with KDE. And after the stream, I'm going to go back into Kubuntu and play around. Just saying. Anybody else got any last thoughts they want to get in that they weren't able to get in?
As Zeb was talking about the keyboard nums lock and caps lock, I actually went in and found it, and I'm like, wow, they actually put this in Linux? I didn't even know such a thing existed.
Very nice.
And the clock, whoever designed the clock, thank you. I love the clock. It's man size. I don't have to get up there and squint at it to see what time it is.
I prefer a different clock. I think it's too big. When you add the date, I hate this. The only option is the row, and I want it to be a horizontal thing because it takes up so much space, and I don't need my panel to be that big just so I can have the date in it. It's silly. But there's a good plasmoid that you can replace the clock with if you don't like that style.
I love that style. Don't change a thing.
You can totally keep that. This is a preference. It's called Event Calendar, and yes, that makes no sense for a clock applet, but whatever. It's a fantastic thing. It has so many things. It even has a stopwatch on it for some reason. It's awesome.
And that guy that makes a few other that are very good too. So, Eric Adams.
Use a binary clock? Are you wrong?
Binary clock? Come on, dude. Hey,
Damn.
JJ, that was really loud, dude.
Sorry.
Okay, Eric Adams, how do we get Michael to stop talking about Kubuntu?
I already stopped, but let's keep going. So,
you mean Clippy? Yeah, we'll get Clippy to stop here.
Yeah, Michael's making a list and he's checking it twice. It's that time of the year.
I'm willing to answer any questions about Kubuntu if people want it. But there's actually something that's really nice about Kubuntu because like we've been trying to like improve certain pieces of the polish. It takes a while to do all this stuff, but there's one thing in Plasma that was fixed, that was finally fixed, and I love it. There's two things that were done in this latest version of Kubuntu that are super tiny and super useful, and that the workspace / virtual desktop grid layout makes sense and isn't this weird vertical mess or whatever. It like automatically adjusts based on your window, the size of your screen and stuff. And I think who's typing? Spider? I think you're typing on your microphone. The other one is the layout of the present windows is no longer insanely ridiculous structured. It used to be like the natural is the stupidest name for that.
So bad.
And it's the worst possible setting, and it's the default setting for all of Plasma, except for Kubuntu uses something called regular grid. Like a grid that people want it to be displayed in.
Really?
Versus one gigantic window and one little teeny window right here. Like such a ridiculous thing. But anyway, that stuff's fixed and it looks so much better now. And it's much smoother and much more, it has a better feel to it,
So I know we pick on Michael, but I do want to make the point that we always talk about how can we contribute back to the things that we enjoy using? And I think this is a great example that, I mean, Michael's been doing this for a long time, but, you know, he had a lot of feedback to give, and a lot of it makes perfect sense. And it has, I think, if you use Kubuntu versus other KDE Plasma distros, you can see the difference, right? The difference is that they've put so much time and effort into the refinements. And, you know, certainly we pick on him and joke around, but the idea that you can go to a distro, and maybe not all of them are going to be as receptive, but if you can articulate this, look, this doesn't make sense. Here's why it doesn't make sense. This is what you guys probably should do. And then have that kind of channel open. And I think that's one of the successes of what open source, you know, what it's all about, that type of communication and feedback that we have.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, the reason I started doing it with Kubuntu is because I was talking to Rick and I just made a suggestion. He's like, yeah, it's a good idea. Like, oh, you're listening. Oh, now we have a lot to talk about.
he probably
Dan,
regrets
you better
that.
get in there, son, otherwise you never will with Michael.
No, every once in a while he'll send me a message like, hey, you got something? I'm like, yeah, I do. Let's do it. Let's fix
So
this. Change.
real brief, I don't know if anybody brought attention to Colin's video this week that he did. That was pretty great.
Colin did a video
Colin did
on
a video,
Kubuntu?
and it was yeah, it was awesome.
Well, that musical thing.
I liked it a
Yeah,
lot.
thanks.
It was pretty cool.
Epic.
It had a
Thank
good
you.
feel.
Oh yeah, I watched that. That was awesome.
Do we have a link to it we can put in the chat?
I don't, but I'll get one.
Colin will get there for us.
So, Michael, one last thing. For the Kubuntu developers, is there anything that they need as far as like, is there something, you know, donation wise or help wise, or what is the main thing that they need help with?
Testing, like QA stuff, like bug testing and things like that. If they can, like, that's probably the most like impactful quickly. Like documentation would be great too, but I think QA and like just testing stuff when they do like beta stuff, to just test those out and don't review them, just test out and send out feedback to them. But I think that would be very beneficial. I mean, they're also, you know, every project's looking for developers and stuff, right? But
right.
As far as like everybody, like donations don't really kind of do that, because Kubuntu and KDE and the Ubuntu structure, the donations don't really work that way.
Right.
It's kind of odd there. But they probably, the testing is probably the most important thing you could do for improving stuff. Just letting them know, like testing things out, if you find something, let them know that you found something, and they usually address it very quickly.
Yep. Well, I want to give a big shout out to Rick Mills for all the work he's put into Kubuntu. And Rick Timmis and anybody that I haven't mentioned, thank you to all of the devs of Kubuntu for all of the hard work, and it is appreciated.
Very much.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have to pick a distro for next week, and it's obviously going to be one of the Ubuntus. So
I think Kubuntu's a good option.
Yeah, sure.
My vote goes to keep this cute train going and do Lubuntu.
I'm good with trying Lubuntu. Any other suggestions?
Studio.
Budgie.
Kylan.
No.
Well, we will get to all of them, so it's not like we won't get to them. But for
I
next
like
week.
Well, the question is can Mr. Pulse Audio turn up next week?
I know Simon hasn't been here in so long. I don't
He's a
know.
busy man.
I don't know if he'll be able
He is
to.
a busy guy.
The last time we tried Lubuntu, I think he was at Linux Fest Northwest or something.
Yes, Linux Fest Northwest.
So-
I was right there with him.
Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to him or message him this week, so I have no idea if he would be around next week. But Dan would be happy to take over for him. Right, Dan?
I can be here. Yeah.
Okay.
You and I, let's tag team Simon, make him come.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll all ping him in Telegram. You wonder what the hell's going on.
He's kind of busy today, but yeah.
So we're going with Lubuntu?
Well, that's my question. Are we going with Lubuntu? Anybody have a problem with going with Lubuntu?
Ubuntu.
Lubuntu.
As long as Dan tells me they've sorted out the wallpaper. I'm not going there then.
All right. So that will be the next distro challenge for this week. Will be Ubuntu 1910. So again, the distro challenge is a side thing. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. That doesn't mean you can't join us in chat or join us on Zoom. But if you do try it, join us and give us your opinion on it. All right. That's what we got for that. Moving on. What do you guys got? What do you want to talk about?
Did you hear about Kubuntu?
Michael?
Rocco,
Wow.
did you look at the article that I posted
Balls.
earlier that I said I think it'd be interesting to.
Joe, please remind me of what that article was.
That
'Cause
article was a complete and utter nonsense list.
It was nonsense, but I think it's important to address because
what list?
It was an author who didn't even use his real name. Basically, it was on a site called Fastberg. Why you should not use Linux over Windows. And I looked at this, even though there were very, very few valid points, it was basically in my opinion, an uninformed article. And it's that kind of thing that I feel, people tend to look at negative things more so than they do positive. They all want to hear the drama things or the, news sell. They always say bad news sells first or whatever. Somebody had said before, I'm trying to remember who says that if it bleeds, it leads kind of a thing. And it just is not, because that showed up in a Linux Facebook page that I am part of or whatever. It was a Linux group. And it just turned my stomach to it. That's why I starting to tweet a little bit, and I did not think it was valid. Well,
to be honest with you, Joe, I mean, I didn't look at it, so I have no idea what the article said. But from the way you're describing it, for me, I wouldn't even read that article because to argue about something like that with somebody who's already made up his mind is not even worth it. If you don't want to use Linux, then don't. Use whatever you want to use. But
this article is about why you shouldn't, as in he's telling everyone not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's not arguing about it. It's just we need to basically refute it. Is what I felt was, because we're a community here, was just to refute why people shouldn't listen to stuff like this. Yeah, and there's a lot of. It's unfortunate because when I look at this group and the chatter that goes on in it, and you got a lot of new users, that are coming into these groups, and there are a lot of new users. Their perception gets muddied by it. So, you just, rather than arguing, you just try to offer the positive or the alternative points to it.
Okay, let's just take an interesting tact here. Out of everybody in the groups here now, who has ever known of a website called Fastberg?
None of us, yeah.
No one.
Exactly. It's fast.
But see, that's the point. These are the types of things that are showing up in a lot, and there's a lot of user groups, Linux user groups popping up, and a lot of these type of articles are popping up in them, and I don't know why.
I bet you that kind of article was just someone trying to troll. They would just join the group to spam that to annoy people.
They can't be Linux proper user groups if they're allowing rubbish like this in. I mean, it says here, complication on setting up. Furthermore, after installing Linux, setting up can be hard as well. The application sometimes needs other dependencies to run as it should. Even more, finding and installing proprietary software and drive, whatever that means, can be hard as well if it's not in the software store or repository in the Linux distro. While in Windows, one can download the software directly from the developer, which is easier than building a tar-gz-like packages in Linux.
Right.
When's the last time you built a package?
Exactly.
And a tar-gz is already built. Unzip it and it's there to use.
So this is why I said I don't even think that we need to even worry about an article like this, because look,
it's a hit piece.
We could sit here and talk and refute every single thing in that article, but what would we gain by that? Nothing. We would not gain by anything like that. I mean, I'm not like saying it was a bad thing to bring up, Joe. I'm just saying that I don't. Like, when you have people that say things like that, you just let them go and let them talk and move on. If he wants to put an article out like that and have two people view the article, I think more people viewing the article is a bad thing. Right. Because the more we view the article, the more hits he's getting, and he's thinking, oh, this is a popular article.
Yep.
Well, and honestly, that I normally do quite honestly ignore those kind of things, but for some reason that one just for whatever I don't know if it was because of the discussions that were
Got
going
you
on
mad.
or whatever.
Got you upset. Yes.
Yeah, it ticked me off, and then it just I don't know. It's just something that
You
I
can't
think they
let it go.
intended that. I think that's kind of what they wanted to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to let that go, brother.
Yeah.
Must have been created by the same two people who thumbed down Big Daddy's Linux Live before it even went live.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. So,
Flat earther.
Maybe it was written by the guy that did the Verge build that was, running around.
Michael, while you're here, though, I did want to ask you a question about Kden Live. The snap is there, snap package. So are they now recommending the snap package over the app image or no?
No, it's an option.
I know they used to recommend the app image.
Well, they used to recommend the app image because it was the only official package they maintained. I don't know if the Kden Live people are maintaining the snap, but the KDE team is maintaining the snap, so it is an official snap. So I don't think they're recommending it over app images. They're just saying, here are the options. If you want to use the snap, you can use the snap. You want to use app image, you can use app image. However, they do suggest those two particular ones. I think that the Flatpak is not up to date as much, but if it is, they're okay with it. Promoting all three of those. They don't typically promote distro-specific packages anymore. And in some cases, they don't even pay attention to them because like the PPA for Ubuntu is not even up to date. So they, in my opinion, they shouldn't even maintain those if they already have a app image or something like that makes it easier.
Yep. All right. What else you got?
Hey, Rocco, I think I just found I found a point of discussion that I want to go into with regards to computing. And that I know it's a Windows story, but bear with me for a moment. So you may not have heard, but coming at the end of January 2020, Cortana is going to officially become dead, part of the Microsoft graveyard. And what I want to raise up in this topic is there a place for desktop personal assistants?
Yes, as long as they're not annoying like Cortana.
I mean, we've got Clippy over there, so.
I would absolutely voice one of those, by the way.
Yeah. Didn't Jason just do a video on that?
Yeah, didn't
Deepin's looking at doing that, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
There's some value in it as long as the information it provides is useful and like for people who want, like there are so many people who use their phone to, and like they just use the Google thing and search for it, or they use Siri and just search without actually going to the app and doing the search. There's a lot of people who do that. And if you could do it on your desktop, there's a lot of people who would do that. And it's just the way that Microsoft did it with Cortana was so infuriating that everyone hated it. And it was worthless information. It was always wrong and never went to the things they wanted to do. So yes, virtual assistants and personal assistants would be good for a desktop, but getting it done properly is very hard to do. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, especially for Linux. I mean, Mycroft is a thing, but it's got a long way still.
Tying this back in, Deepin is, I suppose, creating a virtual assistant for Deepin 20,
Yeah.
Which I'm curious to see how that pans out because,
So not to change the subject, but changing the subject. Did anybody pre-order the Pine Phone? Come on. Only one person in here pre-ordered the Pine Phone.
I didn't know it was releasing
Come
yesterday.
on.
Well, it released yesterday.
I was like,
or the pre-order was yesterday. You should watch This Week in Linux. Just saying.
I don't need a phone yet.
I'll wait for the next one because after I read it, it really is a beta.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a beta.
It doesn't have iMessage, right?
Well, that's what according to the release.
It
was.
is.
says
It's an
it really
alpha.
is.
It's not a beta. It's an alpha.
But they want you to help test it, and if you're not really that technical, technology.
Not everyone. Yes, not everyone should get it.
March. Yeah.
It doesn't come
it's
with
meant for early adopters for sure.
It doesn't come with anything installed, correct?
Correct.
Oh, it's okay. So then it's a beta.
No, it's not a beta.
It's just bald.
What's that, Adam?
iMessage? No, we're working on iMessage for sure. We're going to put it in Kubuntu as well. So the Pine phone is not, it's not a beta because the hardware is essentially done. However, they're not making the software, so they are waiting for a full version for an OS to be complete, right? That to work perfectly on the phone. So while that's still in development, they didn't want to wait until having the very first version being March, because if they didn't do this Braveheart edition, they wouldn't have had their first version until March of next year, and they didn't think that was a viable option for waiting for that to be done and then doing another batch after they do all the testing there. So it's not necessarily beta, but it is definitely not for everyone. It's definitely not a mainstream version. It's just like the hardware is almost like 95% complete. They think that there might be some slight changes. Yes.
What carriers does it support?
Whatever carrier you want. I think it's GSM based though.
So probably AT&T, T-Mobile, those.
Did anyone see that delightful infographic comparing that phone with another open source?
I did not see that. No.
I'll have to find it for you, Michael.
I would like to see that for sure.
It was a very, very nicely done infographic.
Although, do you think there's going to be more popularity for the Pine Time versus the Pine Phone because of the low cost and the desire for people to have open wrists rather than open handsets?
I think that, well, neither one are technically fully open, but the Pine Time is going to be nice, and especially since it's super cheap, people are going to be willing to get it more likely in general, whatever. But the price of the phone is also ridiculously cheap for a smartphone, so I think it'll be very. I think they're a great companion device for the phone.
And I think the phone at first is probably not. So you're right. I mean, the hardware I think is pretty close, but the software, I'm curious to see how well UB ports and Plasma Touch and everything else that'll be available. I mean, I know those teams have done a lot of work for it, but what state that's in when you get the Braveheart edition?
Well, the UB ports have demonstrated it works quite well on the Pine phone. But based on the dev kit, they've done a lot, and they've also got the developer versions of the completed phone. So they have tested it on the new phone, and they've showed off that it works quite well.
Well, to speak to Dan's point, so will it have phone features? Yes, but anyone who thinks it's going to be an Android or iPhone equivalent day one is going to be disappointed.
No, it's definitely not going to do that.
Yeah. But
it's going to have a 47 megapixel.
It kind of segues into something that Ryan Dosgeek he made a video earlier this week about, and I hadn't thought of this. So the Pinebook, an ARM-based architecture specifically, I hadn't thought, there's not as much software. And is that a problem running one of these devices because you're limited to what's compiled? Yeah.
I mean, you can compile it yourself. But yeah, you are limited, and if it's open source, you're good. If it's proprietary, you have no choice. So ARM devices have an issue. I mean, it's less of an issue on mobile devices because there's a lot of stuff specifically. Everything for those devices are typically built for ARM anyway, so that should be fine. But in terms of the Pinebook, I don't have a Pinebook Pro yet, but I do have an original Pinebook. And I have run into many instances of wanting something that is not ARM built, and it is kind of annoying. But I typically use that laptop as a secondary travel thing, and for that purpose, it's amazing. If you want to use it as a primary hardware, it depends on what you want to do with it, whether it's going to work or not.
I get the sense, though, that as more people use those devices, that because there's a larger market, that hopefully,
chicken or egg problem. Yeah,
chicken. Get on it.
So, the other week we were having a conversation about distro hopping and why we distro hop, and actually, Colin asked if we could continue the conversation, but I just want to say. I didn't really, I know why we distro hop, but it kind of came to light even more after trying Kubuntu, because like I said, I had so much fun going into the settings and messing around and checking everything out. And I was so, so not in sync with that. Like, it was usually when I set up a desktop, I do this, I do it all in sequence. And I was just all over the place. And it was so much fun. And it just brought it to light even more, in a bigger picture of why you distro hop, and that feeling you get when you install a new distro and you're just like a kid in a candy store, just setting up a new system. And I haven't felt that way in a while, because I don't get a lot of time, even though we try distros every single week or every other week. I don't get a lot of time with those distros. So I'm usually trying to check out specific things like, is this working? Is this not working? But just to go in and play with it, I don't get a lot of time to do that. And it was actually a great feeling again to have. I don't know what you guys think about it, but
that's an interesting point.
Well, for a guy like me, who before settling on staying on Kubuntu for long term, if there was an issue that came up that I thought I couldn't resolve myself, or if there was some sort of small type bug that bothered me to the point of, let me just nuke and pave, that would give me enough time to consider maybe another variant. I've been hopping all over the Ubuntu variants for a while, and I have experience in a little bit of each, and each have their pros and cons. But sometimes when a small bug for my configuration appears and I can't necessarily fix it at that instant, nuke and pave.
I think that nuke and pave is not a reason to, just to give you a small bug to nuke and pave is overkill.
Did you guys hear the Ubuntu podcast this week? Popey and God, how can
Wimpy.
I possibly?
Yeah.
Wimpy.
I heard that.
They were like, yes, distro hoppers are the most annoying users.
yes, I did hear that.
Yeah.
Because of that exact thing that JJ just said, which is you found a bug, and if you don't report it, no one will ever know. And if you do report it and you expect an immediate response, and you just say, I'm not going to wait, and you just nuke and pave, and then finally they get back to you and
No
say,
way to
well,
fix it.
okay, yeah, can we get a system report? And it's like, I already, it's too late.
Yeah, nobody tests the upgrade paths because they're just like, everybody perpetuates the idea of, well, there's a new version, so I'm just gonna blow it away and do a fresh install. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of the upgrade path is bad. Yeah, because no one's testing it, no one's using it.
But this is the longest I've ever been on Kubuntu, and I have the opportunity to upgrade it with no problems so far. Knock on wood.
Well, it's just the issue of people who do the nuke and pave because there's a problem is an issue, because that itself is a problem because you're not fixing the issue that you found.
Right.
And you're not even telling anyone about the issue you found. So,
but I'll be honest with you, Michael, even years ago, that was the easiest thing for me to do. I had no idea how to file a bug. And I don't even know if I cared to know how to file a bug. So it was I was just in this mode of, installing this new Linux thing. And if I ran into an issue and I had no recourse to fix it, I didn't go trying to search how to file a bug. I just went and reinstalled it.
I think the issue is, I think that's valid, but I think there's the issue is that when you get a new distro, it's very hard to find a place to go to get help, an obvious, when you go to Kubuntu's site, that they don't really have a good site for how to do bug reports, how to do updates, how to get not updates, but get support directly, because it's scattered in different places, and they have the KDE forum section of Kubuntu, and it's just kind of scattered. And the same kind of thing with a lot of these distros, Ubuntu Mate having their own forum is a fantastic example of doing it the right way and having a single place where everybody goes to. But most distros don't have that. So I understand why people would be frustrated on those kind of things, because they just want their system to work. They don't want to go through the process of trying to deal with fixing all that. So I'm not saying that it's not unreasonable. It's just unfortunate.
It is. It is unfortunate, because you're right. The bugs don't get fixed, and they just stay there because it's not being reported.
Interesting comment from chat, though. It says it isn't necessarily the user's responsibility to file bug reports.
Yes, it is. If they
they
want to get it
don't-
fixed.
Yeah, but if they don't, how's the distro going to know about it, and how are they going to fix it?
Well, there
So-
are some trains of thoughts to say that you're using open source software, so you have a responsibility to report the bug because it's like a contract or an agreement you're entering. I don't particularly prescribe to that theory.
I think ethically it is, because if they can't fix the bug if they don't know it exists, and if you don't tell them the bug exists, how can they fix it, right? So in a
free
way,
only goes so far.
But let's get one thing straight here. It's not a dead simple process to report a bug. And what
I
they're
agree.
basically saying is you need to, if you want to use Linux, you need to become a tech geek in order to report a bug. And some people will argue with that, but
I think I just want to talk about the one particular piece where he's saying it's not the user's responsibility. I think it is the user's responsibility. However, I think it's also the developer's responsibility to make it easy for the user to do it.
That's
And
what I
if
was
they
going to
don't
say,
do it,
Michael. You
there's a
mentioned
break
about Kubuntu having, and everybody else is here too. It's got all these whistles and bells and tools and everything else. Why is it that, whether it's not just Kubuntu, but especially that one, because we'll pick on that because it's got so much in there, why is there just not one more feature in there where you just go into and you click on it like you would any other piece of software to bring up and just send what you want to do, versus having to go and send it the traditional way? I mean, unless you get a crash and some of the distros, like, they'll pop up and say, do you want to send this report or whatever? But not all of them do that. But if you find something that doesn't necessarily trigger that, why not just have something built in that you can basically just click and boom and send? What
Plasma
I mean?
does actually have that built into it, and it's
any Ubuntu flavor should. You should.
Well, no,
Yeah,
that's
but I mean,
AppOrt. That's
it's
AppOrt.
not-
I'm
it's
talking about
not-
there's actually one
right, but
specifically
it's
for
not-
Plasma.
It's not easily found. It's not something that you could just, the average person is going to be able to just know what to do. I'm talking about having an icon there or whatever, or something like any other piece of software that brings it up in front of you. You type your message and you just hit send.
But then doesn't that
It
go,
does.
But then doesn't that go into the question of, well, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm ranting and maybe possibly going into a tangent, but what if it goes into telemetry or something like that, like some sort of
Telemetry is a good thing. People shouldn't be like vilifying telemetry.
Now you're opening up a whole new can of worms. Shiken, what were you going to say?
So I was going to kind of touch on two things. One of them is kind of a semantics point, and probably where a lot of people kind of misinterpret things. It's responsibility versus liability. No one is liable to do it, but everybody, I feel like, is responsible to some extent as users. So you don't have to do it, but if you expect anything to change, you're the only one who can kind of make that happen, because you're the one experiencing the problem.
Yeah, you're not responsible. You're not obligated, but you are responsible if you care enough to. If you want to complain about it, you are responsible for letting them know that needs to be fixed.
Exactly. And the other part was in terms of why we distro hop. I don't know how many other people struggle with things like this, but for me, part of it is choices. I have struggled with ADD and ADHD for all of my life, and so when I'm presented with a lot of choices, I don't know what to do. So
Kubuntu.
when I'm kind of on one set path and then something else is there, like, my instinct is just, let's try this. And so I'm totally fine with wasting 6 hours out of the day just jumping from distro to distro to distro, just because I have no idea where I'm supposed to go. So the first 2 years of me using Linux was just a massive waste of time because I didn't know where I was supposed to be.
The way that I recommend people do this, if anyone cares, is I ran into the issue, especially early on, like you're saying, where I would do nuke and pave, or I would install something and mess up my system and then just make it irreparably damaged, at least at my knowledge level at that point. So what I've learned to do is you just dual boot. You have one system. So I always have Kubuntu as my just always distro that has everything on there. It never breaks, has everything I need. And then I have a second partition that I try stuff on. And if I get in there and I like it, I can set it up and use it and it's fine. And I have all my data and like, great. But if something happens or if I'm in the middle of doing something and I get a call from work or I need to do something, I can just boot right back into Kubuntu, get my work done. Distro hopping becomes a problem when you can't get things done.
Yes.
And I know for a lot of people that happens where you get sucked into that, like, oh, I'll just try this. You know, we joke about like, you know, extreme distro hopping, like doing something right before we're supposed to get something done and then having a problem getting that thing done. And so that's been my like easy out, is I just have that known good. And if I have to, I just go right back to it. And then if, you know, later on I can come back and play around to my heart's content.
Well, I'm going to put a link for a video that Popey made about reporting bugs. It's only 2 minutes, so it will, you know, hopefully it will be beneficial to some people and spur people on to report some of the bugs. Colin, did you want to get in on this conversation? Because I know you were asking the other week to continue it.
No, sorry, I was my internet sort of cut out a bit, so I was a little bit zoned out of that conversation. But the bugs you're talking about, or
I'm talking about the distro hopping and why we do it.
Oh, distro hopping. It's probably out of my head, Rocco.
It's all good,
Sorry.
brother. Dan Kelly, you got something? Oh, Dan, go ahead.
I'll go back and say, real quick. The bug video that Popey did, that's really excellent. And we actually linked to that in our wiki page for reporting bugs. So it's really well done.
I wanted to make a point real quick. So Mitchell in chat was saying that his parents love Linux, but they're not technical users. And there are a lot of people like that. And I think that's okay. And so what we're seeing is I think the tools are getting better, right? I mean, if there's a crash, a lot of times the box will pop up. As long as people say send, you know.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, Eric, but I just want to add on to that. Like my dad runs Linux, and I have it installed for him. But he's not going to go report bugs. Okay. And that's where I have a problem with that statement of you have a responsibility if you're using Linux to report bugs.
Well, but he's also not going to distro hop, right, Rocco? I mean,
no, he's not.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, also he's not obligated to do it. It's more of a responsible, if you want it to be fixed, you have the responsibility to help it get fixed. If you're just going to deal with it, then you're just going to deal with it.
Right.
Well, and if he came to you, Rocco, and he said, hey, I keep having this problem happen, you would probably try to trap it, figure it out, and then report it for him or something.
Right. But what I'm saying is when you make a statement like you have a responsibility to report the bugs, I don't think you're taking into account there are a large number of users out there that just are not going to or not technically capable of reporting that bug.
So
that's fair. I still think that they're responsible for it, but they're not obligated.
But is it more fair to say that a group of people like this who do have the wherewithal and the technical knowledge, instead of just, you know, encountering a problem and then nuking and paving, that the decent thing to do, the responsible thing to do would be report the bug?
Yep. Agreed.
I think that you could think about it that really Linux is a very powerful system, and with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh my gosh.
Dan
Kelly, you wanted to get in.
Real fast, if you're using Kubuntu, it does have an error reporting system under applications. At the bottom, there's a box that says diagnostics. In there, there's a place where you can select error report to canonical. It's got a privacy policy thing you can click on. And it's also got a box that says send a report automatically to a problem prevention log. And then it says previous reports underneath it. So you can activate all these things. By default, it's got checked send error reporting to canonical out of the box.
Right, that one does, yeah. But what this holds true for no matter what you do in your life. You know, I mentioned about, you know, a lot of negativity tends to take the forefront more than it should. But the reality of it is I used to tell my customers, even in my contracting business or whatever, I said, you know, we all like, and I've said this before on the show, I said, we all like the pats on the back. But if there's something wrong or there's something that you don't like, I can't fix it if I don't know about it. And it's the same premise with this. You can't fix the problem, you know, if there's a bug in here. And maybe it is more up to the people like us who are a little bit more of an advanced user setup than the average person. But in Rocco's case, like you said earlier, if his dad keeps telling him, hey, I've got this going on, yeah, he's got somebody to turn to that can turn around and initiate it for him. But it's the only way that this is going to keep getting better. And I think that that's how Linux overall has gotten better through these sorts of things and forums like this already. So we are making advances, but to some degree, I think that statement of saying the responsibility, it falls on where if you're going to complain about something, then do something about it rather than just complain about it. And I think that's where Popey and Wimpy had come from a couple of weeks ago. They said the same thing. Don't just complain about it and say, hey, I hate this. And you haven't told us what you hate about it. Tell us what's wrong and what's bothering you so we can fix it.
All right, Michael, that means that everything that we talked about tonight, we want fixed tomorrow.
That's right.
That's not my responsibility.
and Tippy,
wow, that was a fast circle.
Now you know about it. Knowing is half the problem. So away you go.
There you go.
Half the problem. That was just for you, Dolphin. If you've been keeping up with chat.
Right. So I was very tempted to do that too. So I think that the issue, I guess the word responsibility is not what people, I think that's what bothers people about having because, it kind of implies that you have an application. If we have a different terminology, I suppose that'd be more, I think that I think that people should have if they don't want to complain, it doesn't matter. If they just deal with I think most people who use Windows, for example, and they deal with issues, they just complain and not do anything about it. They don't care either. So I don't think that those people moving over to Linux would make any difference because they would just do the same thing. They would just say that something's broken or annoying or whatever and just deal with it or not deal with it. I don't know. Maybe they'll nuke and pave. Who knows?
Or switch over.
Well, I think that may be a little bit different for a Windows user because everything is paid over there. So if you're paying for software, you kind of expect it to work, whether that's Windows or whether that's paid software. In Linux, you're not paying for it. So I think there is that idea. I just don't like that word responsibility because that to me means that if you don't, then you're in the wrong because you have a responsibility to do that. You're kind of like shaming people into it, and I don't think that that's the right approach. I think there should be a different word. I don't know what that word is, but I think it should be a different word.
I mean, I agree with that. I really just wanted to make the Spider-Man joke, but the other part was if we could have a different terminology for it, that'd be fine. I think there should be some sort of ethical obligation to it, but not really, just some kind of term that implies that you should do it, but you don't have to.
How about there be something in the Ubuntu releases that just asks for people to do it?
Right, the helpful thing.
Hey, if you encounter a bug, please go here and tell us about it.
They do, but not very well.
It's not what I'm saying is it's not up front and center. It's not in the welcome screen anywhere. It's not it's just not for technical users like us.
That video
that's fine,
Popey made should just start loading and say, hey, watch this.
There you go. Exactly. I love it.
Be part of the distro ISO.
Yeah, and just when you launch, if there's a bug report that pops up and says, "Hey, we found a bug. Here's a video to show you how to report this if you would like to report." They could do that.
There you go.
As much as I like Popey's videos, I don't think auto playing is the way to go there.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't automatically play. It would automatically pop up and then have a little click button and say, "Hey, you want to click this, right?" Yeah.
No, but we talked about the virtual assistant, and could you imagine Popey being the
virtual assistant?
Hey, Popey, can you report a bug for me? I understand you have a bug to report.
I mean, technically, he is Mycroft, so.
In that sultry British accent, too.
Why don't you tell me what bug you want to report?
Yep.
You got a bug? Yay!
Then you have a throw across the window, right?
I don't want to be judged by my virtual assistant. That's all I'm saying.
I think we have to cut up Colin now.
That's too good.
Sorry, Clippy judges you.
All right, we are way over time. I love the conversation. It was awesome. Great points in it. But hey, just report the bugs, all right? Everybody gets a last word. PZ?
My last word this week is going to be for a person who joined our forums and then said they didn't realize I advocated for peppermint. Hello? Peppermint OS? Yes, it's me, Zeb. This is what you should use.
Yeah, that's Big Papa Peppermint.
Yep.
He needs to tattoo it on his forehead.
And thanks, Rocco, for putting it on this week. It's mine and Eric's best place to come to every week.
Adam.
Thanks for the show. I know I didn't have much to say, but go Gnome.
It's the moral support, Adam.
Yeah, I try. So everybody, have a good night. Enjoy yourselves, and yeah, good times.
Dig it.
What have you done with the cat?
Oh, she ran off. Yeah.
During the
surprised she was
pre-show.
there that long. I mean, she was like balanced. She was actually asleep there, and it's like, what?
During the pre-show, Adam's cat was sleeping on the top of his chair there. And we didn't even notice.
Hungry, did you?
We didn't even notice because it's like a dark cat. It's like a black cat. So
Yeah.
all right, Colin, last word, brother.
Yeah, thanks for the show, Rocco, and all the other guys helping in the background there. It's great. Looking forward to trying Ubuntu this week, see what's changed, because I don't think I've tried that since 1910. So normally sort of creep into the Ubuntu every now and then, but I think I've missed it on this occasion. So here's my opportunity. So, yep, great show. Thanks.
Very nice. Dan Simmons.
All right, thanks as always, Rocco, and thanks to the Kubuntu team for a great release. If anybody has any issues during the week and has any questions, feel free to reach out. And Ubuntu should be good to go.
Yep, Dan would be your man to help with Ubuntu.
Absolutely, reach out.
All right, Joe, last word.
Thank you again, as always, for a wonderful night. I mean, some weeks don't always go as perfect as others, and this is like a release. It's fabulous to sit amongst the group of people, the same group of people every week. And as I just stated in the chat here, I mean, I really have grown to love the community, and not just everybody sitting here, but everybody that you see in all these different platforms. It doesn't matter whose thread it is. It's just fabulous. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity, Rocco. It's fabulous. Everybody have a great week.
Tony, last word.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as usual, thanks, Rocco, for doing it, and to Zeb and everybody else who does bits and pieces. Ubuntu is installed on the testing laptop.
I knew it.
I knew it. That's why I can't get it. Everybody else is there drawing at it.
I love it. I love you, man.
And it looks clean and quite nice, actually. I'm looking forward to trying it. I've been distro hopping a lot this week, so it would be nice to have a little bit of stability for a little while. Hopefully.
Wow. Coming from you saying that, Tony, you must have distro hopped a lot.
Yeah, I did. I switched over to a different one about 2 hours before you went live, hoping I'd just about be ready in time, and I was.
Extreme distro hopping. That's what that's called.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time. Thanks for putting it on, and everybody for showing up. It's another good week.
Dan Kelly.
He can't get out of it that easy. Is he going to use Plasma, Kevin? Have we got you to use Plasma?
I was gonna let it go, Colin, but no, I'm stuck on Pop OS, man. Still using
Well,
GNOME.
we need to talk about that in the after show.
GNOME as default.
Hey, I'm using Pop OS.
You know what they need? A K-pop edition.
Yeah. Hey, wait! Did you hear?
The
Wait!
world's not ready.
Use that.
Did you
I want
hear
them to call it K-pop too.
Did you hear that Jason Evangelo tweeted out that the System 76 is working on an extension for tiling for GNOME? I love it. I can't wait to try it. Okay, Tyler.
And that's going to break when it updates.
Stop it. Tyler.
What happened to Dan?
Wait, Dan Kelly. I'm sorry. I missed you, dude.
My name is Dan Kelly. I'm a chronic distro hopper. I need help.
Hi, Dan.
You're in good company, Dan. You're in good company, brother.
This chat's full of
Okay, I want to thank the producers of the show. It's really a lot of fun to come here and be with you guys. And everybody have a very safe week. And if you're in a cold area, stay warm.
Very nice.
That's it.
Now it's your turn, Tyler.
All right. Thanks for the show. I enjoyed having a week of being lazy and just enjoying my favorite Ubuntu flavor. Now I get to spend the next week seeing if Simon has finally fixed Pulse Audio.
We are going to harass him so bad about that. He says he might show up, so, Chris, last word.
I don't have a whole lot to say other than thank you. And it's good to be back near the 100%. Those sinus infections can really wipe you out. But thank you, Rockhill. Thank you, Zeb. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for hosting and administering the discourse site as well. Kevin and everybody else in this community that I'm not going to spend the entire time mentioning, other than it's great. I love coming here. Thank you. That's about all I have.
Derek, last word, brother.
Accountable. I just was thinking about another word for responsible. And I thought accountable would be a good one. But thank you for having me. I'm also a distro hopper, but I'm trying to keep it on Manjaro GNOME where I belong. So I'll test things out, but that's as far as I'll go.
There you go. Perfect. Paul, last word.
Yeah, my name's Paul, and I'm also a distro hopper.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
I really did distro hop from Arch. I'd been using Arch for over 6 months, and it was acting up on me, so I distro hopped over to OpenSUSE Leap version, the stable version.
Nice.
Cubicle Nate will be very happy.
Oh, yes, he will. I've already been talking with him.
Paul, did you report what was wrong with it? Why you changed? File bug, maybe.
Yeah, they told me to RTFM as well.
Wow. Oh, man. Okay. Michael, last word.
I am Michael, and I just use Kubuntu. So everyone should do that. Kubuntu is fantastic. However, even though I'm a KDE Plasma fan, I have come up with a meditation that is Linux based, and we can all do it together. GNOME. No? Okay.
Okay,
What's
moving
that
on.
got to do with Kubuntu?
Nothing. I'm an equal opportunist.
Right?
Okay.
Ricky, last word.
I just want to say once again, thank you all for having me here. I love coming to these shows. I love testing Kubuntu, and I look forward to testing out Lubuntu 19.10. So thank you very much.
Eric Adams.
My never-ending thanks to the Kubuntu team for giving me the best, most stable distro that always works for me. And I don't know that there's any price I could ever put on that, but it is it's a wonderful thing. And obviously, great to see everybody here. I'm always happy to participate and see your wonderful smiling faces and make corny jokes and just have a good time. So have a great week. See you next week.
I'm going to change my last word to everything that Eric just said.
It's okay. I've just caught the $5 that Michael slipped, Eric.
He called it right before it got to him. JJ, last word.
Thanks, Rocco. Thanks to the production team of this show, and also apologies to anybody whose ears I've punctured during the stream. So just want to put that out there. Also, we're in the throes of Dark November, so be sure to keep your eyes out for good deals out there for technology. And that's all about it.
Dark November.
Where's the Discord plug?
Maybe. BigDaddyLinux.com/Discord.
JJ, you had one job, man.
Yeah, I mean, really, dude.
You should also tell them to keep your eyes out for the deer.
Eris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream. Thank you very much to Plasma, Love Plasma to developers. Thank you for Kubuntu for putting a great distro. That's about it.
Steve.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to give a shameless plug to Farron Next. Give that a try. It's a nice polished distro, doing a really nice job.
Agreed. Peter.
It is very true that Linux has great power with great responsibility.
I love it.
Nice.
People are coming here going, what?
Perfect.
Kind of creeping me out, Mint Spider.
That's really awesome.
That's good.
Chicken, last word, brother.
Yeah, no, I had a great week between IRL stuff and fiddling around with you crazy guys, messing with Kubuntu. It's been a good time, and I'm really glad that there's people in the community who are willing to help others out. You know, everybody's got questions. Everybody's got things that don't really work for them or aren't in the right place, and there's a bunch of people just willing to kind of sit down and chat with others, and that's really good because sometimes we all get lost. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
Very nice. I do want to give a shout out to Dave Dreaming Wolf. He is not here. He is driving back from Baltimore. So he's on the road. He said he was going to try to make it, but obviously he didn't get here. But I think he said if Kubuntu was rolling, he'd be using it. So there you go. I do want to thank the devs of Kubuntu again for all of the hard work. Great job on a great release. And just thank you. Appreciate it. Check out Linux Spotlight. This week was Cheese Bacon, which was a
good one.
That was an awesome conversation, dude. He is so nice to talk to. Like just one of a regular dude sitting down and talking, and that was a great conversation. Coming up this week, Colin, I told you last week it was a guy from your area, maybe a couple hours away, but this week will be Infinitely Galactic IG from YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yes.
So I sat down
Good
with
kid.
him, and I'm in the middle of editing that now. So that's a great conversation as well. That'll release Wednesday at 6 a.m.
Very cool.
Check that out. Other than that, that's all we got.
Excellent.
We're going to get out of here. We are officially closed for business. Until next week, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
I love the open side. What are the hours? Is it just this one particular rando?